Okay, so welcome to my backyard. We bought this house in September of 2020 and immediately put the fence up. It came with the clothesline poles and the swing set, which we got rid of. We actually gave the swing set away to a really nice family. And you can see about January 1st, Zena is modeling my new raised planter bed that I wanted to put some tomatoes in the next spring. So this was the beginning. So you can see in this picture we started taking the clothesline poles out, and it was a massive task. It was really hard. And then it's already spring, leaves are starting to come onto the trees, and I'd already done my corner project. We had started staining the fence, and we'd already put in this walkway back to the new patio that my husband built. So here you see my planter I put up on the fence behind it. It has strawberries and other random stuff in it. And from my corner project, when I took the sod out, I put it in the bottom of this black planter to sort of fill it up. So it has a bunch of sod in the bottom. Then I put my plants in place. You can see on the screen what they were. I added some compost to this, and then I put some mulch on top. And over here I got these bushel baskets at a local store that was selling them for $2, and put cucumbers and squash and potatoes. Within a couple weeks, everything was really starting to get taller and fill out. And then just a side view where you can see I started putting in water lines to help make it less daunting to water everything. And it was very helpful this year. This is just about 3 weeks after I planted them, maybe a month, and they're already super tall, really doing well, starting to get some blooms. And then before you know it, I have baby tomatoes, but I also have some aphids on pretty much all the plants in this bed. I tried different things to get rid of them, and they stayed, and I just accepted my fate. The potatoes on the right were doing great. The cucumbers are really growing, and the squash are really coming in, but these plants were really a disaster and did not do well. Here's just a shot of my corner, which I really love that. And then I had some Roma tomatoes that I put up on our back deck. They did pretty well, and I just thought it was cool to walk right outside and have tomatoes. Look at these squash. They're really deceptive. I got maybe 2 squash and 2 or 3 cucumbers throughout the whole year. The squash borers got in there and just annihilated those 2 plants, and it was just a total failure. So here's just a cool shot of everything really coming into its own. The tomatoes are just massive, and believe it or not, I did trim these. I tried to cut back extra limbs so the peppers in the middle could get some sun, but it really didn't happen. So it took the peppers quite a while to start to grow. Here's one of these pitiful cucumbers. They were edible, they just were not pretty at all. So maybe it was the planters I put them in. They didn't have enough dirt and they just weren't that happy, but the borers really did a number on the squash. So I didn't even have a good enough squash to even take a picture of it. It was just pitiful and made me sad. So that's that. Here's the super steak tomatoes that were just phenomenal. I only had 1 plant. I got several massive sized tomatoes from it that would fit on an entire slice of bread. So it made for an awesome tomato sandwich. Here is my first major crop of tomatoes. And this was probably the middle of July, so I was really happy with those celebrity tomato plants. And we got a storm. We had a couple storms in the summer, and it kind of knocked down some of the limbs, but it really didn't hurt the plant at all. You can see there's just tons of blooms on there. Sometimes we'd count like 35 tomatoes growing at one time on these 5 plants. And there's just my little morning glory that I just thought was pretty. There's a view of just looking down from the deck. We've already stained pretty much everything, and it's just really pretty. I just love the view, and you can see my hops in the background on the arbor. That really did well. And then another storm came, and it knocked a lot of limbs off, but it really didn't seem to matter. And then we ended up having, some little green tomatoes we could have, and I gave a lot of stuff away this year. Next year I plan to can my tomatoes. So here are some peppers we had, and a couple we bought at a farmer's market, and we made a wiener and pepper concoction and canned it, which is really popular where we're from in West Virginia. So it's almost like a delicacy, and you just eat it out of the jar with a fork, and it was fantastic. Here's just a view looking from the back street into our yard, and I just think it's so pretty. Everything's just turned out so nicely. Here's one of my potato crops. We didn't get a lot from each one, but next year is going to be different. And now the habaneros have a chance to have some sunlight. So later in the year, really it was fall, and I'd cut back a lot of the tomatoes at this point. The habaneros just did really, really well. So it was going to be frosty this night, so I just pulled everything I could off of the plants. This is about mid-November, and I just took everything inside and ended up giving all those green tomatoes away. And then the end of November, I pulled everything out and was super sad, and I think I cried. But I'm excited to plan for next year and change some of the lower beds. And then I took those habaneros and made a pineapple habanero jelly that had 15 habaneros in this batch. And it was pretty good, very sweet. But then I wanted hotter. So I took 40 habaneros and made this hotter than the hinges of hell habanero jelly. And it was so good. Put it on like chicken and grill the chicken, and it will be the best thing you've ever had. So I'm super happy about that. So until next year, that was my tomato bed. Thanks for watching.